On 27th April 2018, the hearse carrying the remains of Kenneth Matiba made its way to the crematory facilities belonging to the Nairobi County Government along Langata Road in Nairobi. It was escorted by 2 police motorcycles and several vehicles. The name Matiba could clearly be seen written on the side of the hearse as it went through Nairobi. This was the final journey of the father of the second liberation in Kenya, as recorded by Kumekucha Kshs channel. Matiba was always the kind of man to elicit strong emotions from people, friend or foe. And even in death, he did not disappoint, because there was a heavily built man, who decided to give this great Kenyan hero a send-off in his own style. What was his message? And there are a lot of other questions here. What was this strange thing that happened at All Saints Cathedral during Matiba's funeral service? What happened in Muranga? What were the highlights during a similar funeral service there the next day? In this video, we shall answer all those questions and give you a lot of other insights on this great son of Kenya and what his death means to Kenya going forward. And we'll do that immediately after this short upcoming commercial break. Don't go away.
Mapambano. Sio ni siku ya kusherehekea Matiba. Bado mapambano. Salimia Kajoi sana. Salimia Saitoti. Salimia Jaramogi Oginga Odinga. Salimia Tomboya. Fidel. Salimia Fidel. Salimia wote. Waambie bado tuko ngangari. Tunaendelea. Hatujui salamu ni ya nini. Salamu imefichwa. Lakini bado tunaenda. Tunapambana na hao. Wanakuzi wa shamba ndio tunadili nao saa hizi. Mnakuzi wa shamba. Tunasherehekea wewe. Wale kufunga wakidhania watakutoa. Ilete baraka kwetu. Haki iwe ngao na mlinzi. Na tukae au amani na amani. Demokrasia. Salimia mzee leo Kenyatta. Kimadi huko. Salimia huko. Salimia Saitoti. Salimia Odioga Joa. Jode. Salimia Ojode. Salimia hata Boya. Jacob Juma. Crispin Bay. Na tujenge Kenya yetu, ndio wajibu wetu. Kenya istahili heshima, tuungane mikono pamoja kasidi. kila siku tuwe musando Kajwangi Otieno salimia Otieno Kajwangi mwambie bado mapambano salimia Jaramogi Odinga salimia Mora.
For reasons which are not yet clear, it has pleased Almighty God to take the country called Kenya back in its history to the year 1991. This has been done rather dramatically because the death of Matiba was timed to happen shortly after a historic handshake between Raila Odinga, leader of the opposition, and retired President Daniel Arap Moi. It was indeed President Daniel Arap Moi's regime that detained Matiba and, even worse, sanctioned his poisoning while in detention at Committee Maximum Security Prison, a poisoning that was designed to end his life. However, God works in mysterious ways. Instead of Matiba dying, he miraculously survived the ordeal, including a second stroke that many experts, and indeed leading world experts in a London hospital, announced would be fatal. But it wasn't. Against all odds, KSN Matiba survived, returned to Kenya, where the pressure continued on him from many who wanted to cash in on his political popularity for their own selfish gain. A shadow of his old self, he limped, he hobbled, he stammered into winning the presidential race in 1992. However, somebody else was announced the winner, and Matiba went on to live for 27 long years. Years that were very painful for him, years of great discomfort. He was in and out of hospital all the time. Years when he saw the financial empire he had built with hard work and ingenuity collapse right before his eyes. Now, 27 is a significant number because another great political icon, Nelson Mandela, spent exactly that number of years in detention in a prison in Robben Island. But unlike Mandela, Matiba did not walk out of prison his old self. Indeed, the way I look at it, Matiba instead came out of prison in a coffin. Those who knew this great son of Kenya will agree with me that those 27 years which Almighty God added to him were years lived in prison. A prison much worse than the normal prison. A prison inside a body badly hurt and badly hit by 2 strokes. Kenyans will now know that Matiba had to learn everything all over again. How to walk, how to eat, how to read and write. And he struggled on with his superhuman determination till the very end. Now, Matiba's funeral service at the All Saints Cathedral was a very interesting affair. One very strange and out of the ordinary thing that happened is that although the service was being held at an Anglican church, the Anglican headquarters, All Saints Cathedral, very close to the CBD Nairobi, the message was delivered by Reverend John Gishinga of the Nairobi Baptist Church. Certainly not an Anglican, and those who know the procedure and the rules of churches will know that it is very rare and under very special circumstances that a preacher representing another church, another doctrine, would be given the pulpit for such an important occasion. But this was the request of the Matiba family, and this request was granted. John Gishinga has a very long history with the Matiba family. In fact, a man who understands the late Kenneth Matiba's journey through politics very well, more than very many other people would understand it. And he highlighted beautifully something that many other Kenyans had not touched on. The suffering of the family. The suffering of the family of a great hero of Kenya. We'll come back to that in a minute when we go to the Murang'a service. Okay? But for now, we must mention the love story of Kenneth Matiba and his childhood sweetheart, who ended up marrying Edith. From their days together at Alliance, of course Matiba at the boys' school and Edith at the girls' Alliance school, to their time in Makerere, where Matiba stayed on for 1 extra year, mainly to ensure that he is with his sweetheart. Clearly, the father of Kenya's second liberation was a very passionate man. When he loved with his everything. And when he loathed with his everything. This came out very clearly in the widow's eulogy read on her behalf by a family friend, and indeed relative. At the service in Murang'a, the president came in late, but not too late not to listen to the very beautiful, very detailed eulogy that opposition leader Raila Odinga gave to honor a man he called a great friend of his. Raila told a very shocked audience how it is he who wrote a message on a piece of toilet paper that was smuggled out of Committee Maximum Security Prison, where he was also a visitor of the state, on to his wife Ida, and the message was to be passed on to Matiba's family, that indeed Matiba was very sick. There is something else very interesting that Raila said. He confirmed to the nation of Kenya something that we have been saying in this channel, which many have dismissed as not true. I have always referred to the late Kshs Matiba as the father of the second liberation. Raila confirmed that Matiba indeed looked for him, and it was through Raila that Matiba met with Jaramogi Oginga Odinga, and the reason was a very ingenious strategy by Matiba to gain more momentum for the struggle by asking the elderly Odinga to issue a statement calling for the return of multi-party democracy to Kenya, confirming that indeed the great Jaramogi Oginga Odinga was brought into the second liberation by the father of that second liberation, Kshs Matiba. Jaramogi Oginga Odinga ended up releasing that statement, and the push for multi-party democracy in Kenya gained tremendous pace from that strategic move by Matiba. Folks, make no mistake about it. Politics is always about strategy. And those who have a better strategy, indeed a strategy which catches opponents off guard, will always win the day. But Raila brought out something else that many Kenyans had forgotten, that Mrs. Edith Matiba was attacked in her home in Diani with crude weapons, and the attack was so serious that she had to spend a few days at the ICU, intensive care unit, at the Nairobi hospital. Now I take this opportunity to apologize to all of you on this channel that whenever we have talked about great sons of Kenya, we have not gone out of our way to mention those who supported them, especially spouses, those who bore the brunt of a lot of the backlash that was as a result of their brave actions and who are rarely ever recognized. Folks, we must take off our hats for this great heroine of the Republic of Kenya, Edith Matiba. Mrs. Matiba confessed in her eulogy that she was not for Matiba going into politics, that she was not a great fan of that move by Matiba, but she must have known Matiba well, and she says she finally accepted his wish, his desire. Indeed, she must have known that this man had this thing burning in him. What thing am I talking about? He had this urge to fight for a better Kenya to the bitter end. Yeah, and she must have realized even if she refused, she would not stop him. And even if she stopped him, she would be taking away a part of the man's life. Now, let us be totally honest. Her fears of her husband going into politics were not unjustified. Indeed, from what happened in the rest of this story, we see that she ended up suffering in a very big way. Lying in the ICU for a few days may not have been such a big deal, at least not when you compare it to the 27 long years she had to take constant care of this man, Matiba. 27 years of her life when she should have been pursuing something else, had to go to taking care of her childhood sweetheart. Freedom and the fight for a better Kenya does not come cheaply. The price that often has to be paid by not only the person at the center of it, but those close to him, his loved ones, is impossible to measure and understand and comprehend for somebody who is not involved. Raila Odinga finished his eulogy by talking directly to Matiba. He asked his great friend to say hi to Jomo Kenyatta, Jaramogi Oginga Odinga, and many others. Now, James Orengo, Senior Counsel James Orengo, Senator also, said something very interesting. He said that those behind the poisoning of KSN Matiba must be brought to book. And he said that he knew at least one of them, but he said the others involved were known or could be found. And according to Orengo, they must be dealt with. In my view, it would be a great disservice to the memory of this great Kenyan if those who were behind his poisoning go scot-free. They need to answer for what they did, even if they were doing it under orders. And even those doctors involved who examined Matiba at Committee Maximum Security Prison but said that he was pretending. What? The truth is, those individuals or that individual does not deserve to be called a doctor. Indeed, it is endangering the health of patients in Kenya, to have such an individual still practicing medicine. And if they're not practicing anymore, maybe they've retired, they still need to answer questions to the people of Kenya. Indeed, they have to answer burning questions to the family of KSN Matiba. Back to Langata Road. The cremation was supposed to be a very private affair, but journalists still turned up at the entrance. Some Kenyans still turned up at the entrance, including the very loud Kenyan who was giving his tribute in his own way. Anyway, those ashes you see on your screens right now, coming out of that chimney, is precisely the way the life of KSN Matiba ended on this earth. Goodbye, Matiba. Goodbye, great son of Kenya. Until we meet again. Now, going forward, the events of the last few days, since the 15th of April, when Matiba passed on, have had a huge impact on our politics. In death, Matiba has brought together an entire nation to reflect and think deeply. Yes, we have a new constitution. Yes, Kenya is today a multi-party democracy. However, we cannot avoid to ask the question, is this what Kenneth Stanley Njindo Matiba envisaged when he risked everything for a better Kenya? Is this what he had in mind? Is this the kind of democracy he risked everything for? Kenyans need to ask themselves those questions and to generate an answer from themselves, in all honesty, to generate an answer from their hearts. Now, as I said at the beginning of this video, it has pleased Almighty God that things went this way, that a person who was supposed to have died lived on for 27 long years. And with the benefit of hindsight, it seems that this happened so that his death would be timed to happen exactly when it happened, which makes me tremble. Why do I tremble? I tremble because I suspect that the reason why things happened like this was so that this death would have such a huge impact on Kenyan politics, and indeed the Kenyan people and Kenyan voters. I do not know exactly what that impact will be, but going by the events that have already happened so far, one thing I'm very sure of: that impact is going to be huge. Colossal. Indeed, Kenya will never be the same again. Until next time, this is Kshs Kumekucha.